The last stand of humanity. The red dust of Mars swirled against the observation windows of the TES Hyperion as Commander Sarah Chen watched Earth's last fleet assemble in high orbit. 47 ships, barely half of what they'd started with 3 months ago. The holographic display before her showed the incoming Nexus Collective Armada. Over 300 vessels, their crystalline structures refracting starlight like deadly prisms. "Status report," Chen called out, her voice steady despite the weight pressing down on her shoulders. At 43, she'd spent nearly half her life in space, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "All ships reporting ready, Commander," Lieutenant Rivera responded from his tactical station. "Phoenix Protocol is primed and waiting for your authorization." His dark eyes met hers briefly, carrying the same mixture of fear and determination she felt in her own heart. The Nexus Collective had emerged from deep space 8 months ago, their ships appearing simultaneously at every major human colony. Their message had been simple: surrender or be eradicated. Humanity had chosen to fight, but their resistance had crumbled world by world, colony by colony. Now only Mars and Earth remained. "Multiple quantum signatures detected," announced Captain Maya Wong from her science station. "They're preparing to jump." Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, data streams reflecting off her features. Estimated arrival in 4 minutes. Chen straightened her midnight blue uniform and touched the silver phoenix emblem at her collar. The symbol had been controversial when first proposed. Many had argued against wearing a mythological creature on their uniforms. But Chen understood its significance now more than ever. Sometimes, destruction wasn't an end, but a beginning. "Open fleet-wide channels," she ordered. The communications officer nodded, and Chen took a deep breath. "This is Commander Chen. By now, you all know what we face. The Nexus Collective believes they've cornered us, that this will be their final victory over humanity." She paused, watching as the enemy fleet began emerging from quantum space, their ships rippling into existence like deadly mirages. "They're wrong." The bridge crew straightened at her words, drawing strength from her conviction. "Each of you volunteered for this mission, knowing what it might cost. The Phoenix Protocol isn't just our last resort. It's our promise to humanity's future. Whatever happens in the next few hours, know that your courage today will echo through centuries." The first salvos from the Nexus fleet lit up space like artificial stars. The human ships scattered in practiced formations, their point defense systems barely managing to deflect the crystalline projectiles that seemed to bend reality itself as they passed. "Launch countermeasures," Chen ordered. "Execute pattern Delta 7. The Hyperion shuddered as it released a swarm of quantum mines, their surfaces rippling with dark energy. The Nexus ships adjusted their formation, probably assuming the mines were simple explosive devices. Their mistake. The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. Human ships darted between the lumbering Nexus vessels, their smaller size and superior maneuverability their only advantage. But for every Nexus ship they managed to damage or destroy, 2 human vessels were lost. Hyperion taking heavy damage. Rivera shouted as another blast rocked the ship. Sections 4 through 7 reporting hull breaches. Emergency force fields holding, but barely. Chen watched as the U.S. Valiant, one of their last dreadnoughts, erupted in a ball of plasma and twisted metal. Captain Rodriguez and her crew, gone in an instant. The defensive line was collapsing faster than their simulations had predicted. "Time to quantum lock," Chen asked, her voice tight. 3 minutes to full charge, Wong responded. "But Commander, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the Nexus flagship. They might know what we're planning." Chen's jaw tightened. The Phoenix Protocol had been theoretical until 6 months ago, a desperate plan born from humanity's most advanced quantum research. The entire fleet had been retrofitted with experimental drives that could lock ships and crews in a quantum stasis field, preserving them in a moment of time until specific conditions were met. It was dangerous, untested on this scale, and their only hope. "Sir," Rivera's voice cut through her thoughts. They're targeting Earth directly, reading multiple quantum torpedo launches. Chen's blood ran cold. The Nexus weapons could tunnel through space itself, bypassing conventional defenses. If they struck Earth, she made her decision. All ships, execute Phoenix Protocol immediately. Authorization, Chen Alpha 009. The command codes flowed from her neural implant directly into the ship's systems. Around her, the bridge crew's expressions shifted from surprise to understanding. They had trained for this, but actually doing it. Quantum field initializing, Wang reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. 30 seconds to lock. Space itself seemed to twist as the quantum torpedoes approached Earth. Chen watched their trajectory calculations with growing horror. They would strike major population centers, unless Helm, plot intercept course with those torpedoes. Divert all power to forward shields. The bridge crew stared at her for a split second before jumping into action. They understood. Someone had to buy time for the protocol to activate. The Hyperion's engines screamed as they pushed to maximum acceleration. Warning klaxons blared as structural integrity began to fail. But they would make it. They had to. Quantum lock in 10 seconds, Wang announced. 9. 8. The torpedoes grew larger in their view screen. Chen could see the crystalline matrices within them, carrying enough power to level cities. 7, 6, 5. It's been an honor, Chen said softly, looking at her crew, her family, one last time. 4, 3, 2. The quantum torpedoes were almost upon them. Chen closed her eyes. 1. The universe held its breath. Lock. Reality itself seemed to freeze. Chen felt a strange sensation, as if every atom of her body was being recorded, preserved, transformed. Through the view screen, she saw the torpedoes suspended in space, their deadly energy frozen in time. The last thing she heard before consciousness faded was Wang's voice, distant and distorted. Quantum stasis successful. Phoenix Protocol activated. The Nexus Collective watched in confusion as the human fleet simply vanished, leaving behind only scattered debris and echoing energy signatures that defied their most advanced sensors. They would claim victory that day, not knowing that their triumph was incomplete. For in that moment between moments, preserved in quantum stasis, humanity's best and brightest slept. They would wait, through years, decades, or centuries, until the time was right, until humanity needed them most. The Phoenix Protocol wasn't an end. It was a beginning. 1,000 years later, Commander Sarah Chen opened her eyes to darkness. For a moment, disorientation clouded her mind. She had been on the bridge, the quantum torpedoes bearing down on them, the Phoenix Protocol activating. And then, nothing. The soft hum of ship systems gradually filled her awareness, followed by the familiar weight of artificial gravity. Status report, she called out, her voice hoarse from disuse. Emergency lights flickered to life, casting the bridge in a pale blue glow. Around her, her crew began stirring, emerging from their 1,000-year slumber, though to them it felt like mere seconds had passed. Systems coming online, Captain Wang responded, her fingers already dancing across her console. Quantum stasis field dissipated. All crew life signs stable. She paused, frowning at her readings. Commander, you need to see this. Chen pushed herself from her command chair, muscles protesting slightly. The main view screen activated, showing them their surroundings. Where Mars should have been, there was nothing but empty space. The red planet was gone, along with any sign of the battle that had brought them here. Full sensor sweep, Chen ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. Where are we? Where's the rest of the fleet? Quantum signatures detecting 17 ships within range, Rivera reported from Tactical, all showing Phoenix Protocol markers. That's less than half our original number. His voice carried the weight of those losses, even after all this time. Wang's console beeped urgently. Commander, I'm picking up temporal readings. According to our chronometers. She hesitated, double-checking her data. We've been in stasis for exactly 1,000 years, 3 months, and 12 days. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They had known the protocol might keep them suspended for centuries, but the reality of it was still staggering. Everyone they had known, everyone they had left behind, gone. A millennium had passed while they slept. What about Earth? Chen asked, dreading the answer. The main screen shifted, focusing on their home planet. It was still there, still blue and green, but different. Massive structures orbited it, their crystalline architecture unmistakably Nexus in origin. Regular patterns of light crisscrossed the surface. Mining operations, perhaps, or civilization centers. I'm detecting extensive Nexus presence, Wang confirmed, but also human life signs. Millions of them. They're still there, Commander. Our people survived. Chen felt a mix of relief and anger. The Nexus hadn't destroyed humanity. They'd enslaved it. What about our systems? The protocol was supposed to enhance things while we slept. Running diagnostics now, Rivera responded. Our weapons have evolved. Quantum matrices have reconfigured themselves into patterns I've never seen before. The ship's AI is processing the changes, but preliminary results suggest our combat capabilities have increased by several orders of magnitude. Commander, Lieutenant Park called from communications. I'm intercepting Nexus transmissions. The Universal Translator is having trouble with a millennium of language drift. But he worked at his station for a moment. Got it. They're telling stories about us. Stories. Chen moved to his station, reading the translated text scrolling across his screen. Her eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. The Nexus Collective had turned their disappearance into legend. The human fleet that vanished into nothing had become a ghost story, a tale of warning. Some believed they had transcended physical form, others that they had flowed to another dimension. None had guessed the truth. What about the other subjugated species? Chen asked. The Nexus can't be alone in controlling the galaxy. Wang brought up another display, detecting at least 7 other spacefaring races under Nexus control. Their technology appears to be deliberately suppressed. The Nexus maintains superiority through technological monopoly. Chen returned to her command chair, her mind racing with possibilities. They had expected to wake to a changed galaxy, but this they could use. Their upgraded ships, their mysterious disappearance, the legends that had grown around them. It was all an advantage. Signal the other ships, she ordered. Tight beam transmission only. We need to coordinate before we reveal ourselves. She looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. The Nexus thinks we're ghosts. Then let's haunt them. Over the next few hours, reports came in from the other surviving ships. Each vessel had undergone similar transformations during their quantum sleep. Their hulls had become adaptive, able to absorb and redirect energy. Their weapons had evolved beyond their original designs, incorporating principles that even their best scientists were still trying to understand. But most importantly, they had preserved something the Nexus had spent a millennium trying to crush out of humanity: hope. The spark of resistance, the refusal to submit, the creativity and determination that had always defined their species. New contact, Rivera suddenly announced. Nexus patrol ship just dropped out of quantum space. They haven't detected us yet, but their course will bring them within sensor range in 3 minutes. Chen smiled, feeling the familiar surge of pre-battle adrenaline. Perfect. Let's introduce ourselves. She opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, prepare for engagement. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for every human who's lived and died under Nexus rule for the past 1,000 years. We're fighting for every species they've subjugated. She watched as the Nexus ship drew closer, its crew unaware that they were about to encounter something out of their mythology. The Phoenix Protocol preserved us for this moment. Now it's time to show the galaxy why. The order went out, and 17 ships that had passed into legend emerged from their quantum shrouds. The Nexus Patrol never had a chance to send a warning. Their weapons, terrifying by modern standards, splashed harmlessly off the evolved quantum shields of Chen's fleet. As the debris of the Nexus ship drifted in space, Chen felt a fierce pride in her crew and their mission. The real work was just beginning. They would need to contact Earth's resistance, coordinate with other subjugated species, and prepare for a war unlike any humanity had fought before. But for the first time in a millennium, the balance of power had shifted. The legend of the vanished fleet was about to become very, very real. The Phoenix had risen from its quantum ashes, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Ghost Fleet strikes. The Nexus supply station hung in space like a massive crystalline spider, its translucent arms reaching out to dock with cargo vessels from a dozen subjugated worlds. Commander Chen watched through the Hyperion's quantum-enhanced sensors as those same vessels offloaded the resources that kept the Collective's empire running. Minerals stripped from conquered worlds, technology confiscated from developing species, and the fruits of 1,000 years of galactic exploitation. Incoming transmission from the Valiant. Lieutenant Park announced. Captain Drake reports their infiltration team is in position. Chen nodded, studying the holographic display before her. 6 of her ships had positioned themselves strategically around the station, hidden behind quantum veils that made them invisible to modern sensors. The other 11 were spread across the sector, executing similar strikes against other Nexus facilities. Life signs on the station, she asked. 3,412, Wong reported. Mostly support staff, minimal security presence. But Commander, she highlighted a section of the station. I'm detecting human signatures. Slaves, most likely. Chen's jaw tightened. They'd found similar situations at every Nexus facility they'd scouted. Humans forced to work as manual labor, their technology restricted to the most basic tools. The Collective kept them ignorant of their heritage, of their true capabilities. Signal the infiltration team, she ordered. Priority 1 is securing our people. Then we show the Nexus exactly what they're dealing with. The operation began silently. Quantum-shifted shuttles slipped through the station's security fields, their evolved technology making the Nexus's best defenses obsolete. Teams of crew members, wearing armor that could bend light around them, moved through the corridors like ghosts. First group of humans secured, Rivera reported, monitoring the tactical feed. They're not taking it well, Commander. 1,000 years of conditioning isn't easy to break. Chen understood. To these descendants of Earth, raised on Nexus propaganda, her people must seem like aliens themselves. But that would change. It had to. Station security has detected something, Wong announced suddenly. They're not sure what, but they're initiating lockdown procedures. Right on schedule, Chen smiled. Execute Phase 2. Across the station, carefully planted quantum devices activated. Power systems failed, security fields collapsed, and communication arrays went dark. The Nexus personnel, accustomed to their technology's infallibility, fell into chaos. That's when the Ghost Fleet revealed itself. The Hyperion and its sister ships shimmered into visibility, their evolved hulls gleaming with an inner light that defied analysis. Chen opened a channel to the station, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Phoenix Fleet. For a millennium, you have enslaved our people, stripped our worlds, and suppressed our potential. That ends today. The station's defensive weapons came online, firing crystalline beams that would have vaporized any normal ship. But the Ghost Fleet's quantum shields absorbed the energy, using it to power their own systems. Their weapons are only making us stronger, Rivera reported with satisfaction. Returning fire. The Hyperion's evolved weaponry struck with surgical precision, disabling weapon emplacements and shield generators without threatening the station's structural integrity. They weren't here to destroy. They were here to send a message. Commander, Park called out, I'm picking up transmissions from the human workers. There, they're fighting back against the station security. The sight of our ships seems to have inspired them. Chen felt a fierce pride. Even after 1,000 years of oppression, the human spirit remained unbroken. Send them tactical data, she ordered. Show them which systems to target, how to disable the Nexus control mechanisms. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, the station's Nexus personnel found themselves locked in their own secure areas, while the liberated humans gathered in the main concourse, staring in awe at the ships that had come to their rescue. Opening channel to the station, Park announced. Chen stood, straightening her uniform. The main screen activated, showing hundreds of faces, her descendants, though they didn't know it yet. Some looked afraid, others hopeful, all of them searching for answers. I know you have questions, she began. You've been told that humanity is weak, that we need the Nexus to survive. You've been taught that your ancestors were savages who needed to be controlled. They lied. She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the station, showing images from Earth's history, their achievements, their art, their triumphs. This is your heritage. This is who you really are, and we're here to help you reclaim it. A young woman stepped forward from the crowd, her eyes bright with unshed tears. The stories, she said, her voice trembling. The tales of the ghost ships that vanished in the last battle. They're true. We are the Phoenix Fleet, Chen confirmed. We were preserved through time for this moment, to return when humanity needed us most. But we're not here to simply fight your battles. We're here to remind you how to fight for yourselves. Over the next few hours, Chen's crew began the work of education and liberation. They distributed quantum-enhanced tools, taught basic resistance techniques, and started the long process of undoing centuries of Nexus indoctrination. But they couldn't stay long. Already, Nexus reinforcements would be responding to the station's silence. Time to move, Chen announced. But we'll be back. Spread the word to every human settlement, every enslaved species. The Ghost Fleet isn't a legend anymore. We're a promise. As the Hyperion prepared to jump to its next target, Chen watched the liberated humans beginning to organize themselves, already planning how to help other stations, other worlds. The spark of rebellion had been lit. The Nexus had spent a millennium trying to tame humanity. They were about to learn why that had been a mistake. The Ghost Fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving behind a station full of freed slaves and terrified Nexus personnel. By the time reinforcements arrived, the story was already spreading through subspace channels and whispered conversations. The Phoenix had returned, and this was only the beginning. The Great Deception. The Nexus High Command Chamber pulsed with agitated light, its crystalline walls reflecting the anxiety of its occupants. Supreme Overseer Vexterra, their faceted body gleaming with status markings, faced the assembled commanders with growing frustration. How? They demanded, their translators struggling to convey the depth of their anger. How does a fleet of primitive human vessels continue to evade our most advanced tracking systems? The holographic display at the chamber center showed the latest Ghost Fleet strike. A Nexus research facility reduced to drifting debris, its valuable data cores stolen, its personnel escape pods scattered across 3 systems. No casualties, but the message was clear. Nowhere was safe. Commander Sarah Chen watched this scene from the comfort of the Hyperion's bridge, thanks to quantum surveillance devices that the Nexus couldn't detect. Her lips curved in a satisfied smile. They still think we're using the same ships they faced 1,000 years ago, she remarked to her crew. Let's reinforce that belief. Execute Operation Phantom. Across Nexus space, carefully planted quantum transmitters activated. They broadcast on frequencies that the collective considered sacred, using patterns that mimicked their ancient religious texts. The message was simple but devastating. Prophecies, allegedly discovered in ancient Nexus archives, warning of a day when those who were lost would return, bearing the power of time itself. Nexus communication channels are going crazy, Lieutenant Park reported, monitoring the transmissions. Religious factions are claiming we're the fulfillment of their apocalypse prophecies. Military commanders are being accused of suppressing historical warnings about us. The plan was working perfectly. Chen's team had spent months studying Nexus psychology, understanding their species' deep-rooted spiritual beliefs and their obsession with prophecy. Now they were using that knowledge as a weapon more powerful than any quantum cannon. "Signal from the Artemis," Rivera announced. Captain Santos reports their operation at the Nexus Cultural Repository was successful. They've inserted our modified historical records into their central database. These records, carefully crafted to seem ancient, suggested that humanity had once possessed technology far beyond what the Nexus had assumed. The evidence hinted at quantum manipulation abilities that bordered on the mystical, making the Ghost Fleet's impossible feats seem like the resurgence of a lost human golden age rather than modern innovations. "What about our allies?" Chen asked, turning to Captain Wang. "The Drachnid resistance has already begun their uprising," Wang reported, bringing up tactical displays. The Nexus never suspected they'd coordinate with humans, so their security protocols were focused on the wrong threats. 3 major shipyards are now under Drachnid control. The Drachnid were only the beginning. The Ghost Fleet had made contact with resistance movements among all the subjugated species, sharing not just technology, but something far more powerful: hope. The sight of supposedly primitive humans striking with impunity against the mighty Nexus inspired others to question their own chains. "New transmission from Nexus High Command," Park announced suddenly. They're ordering the evacuation of 3 sectors of space. They believe we've corrupted the quantum fabric in those regions. Chen couldn't help but laugh. They hadn't done anything of the sort. They'd simply used their evolved sensors to detect natural quantum instabilities and made sure rumors spread about Ghost Fleet ships being spotted near them. "Fear," she said softly, "is doing more damage to their empire than our weapons ever could." The Hyperion's main screen showed scenes from across Nexus space. Military vessels changing course to avoid regions where ghost signals had been detected. Colonial administrators requesting transfers away from human-populated worlds. And most satisfyingly, increasing numbers of Nexus citizens demanding investigations into their leadership's suppression of ancient warnings. "Commander," Wang called out, her voice urgent. "Long-range sensors are picking up something interesting. A Nexus science vessel is approaching the coordinates where we first reappeared. They seem to be trying to study the quantum residue from our 1,000-year jump." Chen smiled. "Perfect. Time for the next phase. Signal the Valiant and the Excalibur. Tell them to power up their quantum matrices to full visibility. Let's give those scientists something to really study." The operation that followed was a masterpiece of misdirection. The Ghost Fleet ships allowed themselves to be partially detected, their quantum signatures deliberately modified to seem like echoes from the distant past. The Nexus scientists, already primed by the ancient prophecies, would find exactly what they expected to find: evidence that seemed to confirm humanity's mysterious quantum powers. "Nexus vessel is transmitting their findings to High Command," Park reported. "They're claiming we exist in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Their sensors are interpreting our quantum shields in exactly the way we hoped." The deception was building on itself. Each piece of evidence they planted, each mysterious appearance and impossible feat, added to the growing legend. The Nexus Collective, for all their technological superiority, was falling victim to their own preconceptions and fears. "Message from Earth Resistance," Rivera announced. "The underground networks are fully activated. They're ready for the next phase." Chen nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. What they'd done so far, the raids, the psychological warfare, the alliance building, was just preparation. The real battle was about to begin. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Tell all our allies. Operation Eclipse begins in 48 hours. As the message went out, carried through quantum channels that the Nexus couldn't detect, Chen thought about how far they'd come. They'd turned their thousand-year absence into an advantage, their mysterious return into a weapon, and their enemies' own beliefs against them. The Nexus thought they were facing ghosts, temporal anomalies, the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. Soon, they would learn the truth, but by then, it would be too late. The greatest deception in galactic history was about to become the greatest revolution. Reclamation. Earth hung in the void like a jewel wrapped in chains. Nexus control stations orbited at strategic points, their crystalline structures casting prismatic shadows on the planet below. But today, those shadows would fade. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the Hyperion's bridge, watching the tactical display as thousands of ships emerged from quantum space. The Ghost Fleet had grown from its original 17 vessels to a massive armada, liberated ships from a dozen species, all upgraded with quantum technology, all united under a single cause. All Allied fleets reporting ready, Lieutenant Rivera announced. Drachnid heavy cruisers in position. Meridian stealth squadrons standing by. Earth resistance cells await your signal. Chen took a moment to appreciate the scale of what they'd achieved. In just 6 months, they'd transformed scattered resistance movements into an organized force. The Nexus's own propaganda about the Ghost Fleet had worked against them, making every defeat seem inevitable, prophesied. Begin Operation Eclipse, Chen ordered. All ships, execute quantum protocols. Across Earth orbit, reality itself seemed to ripple. The Allied fleet, already massive, appeared to multiply as quantum echoes created the illusion of an infinite armada. To Nexus sensors, it would look like the ghost ships were emerging from every point in time simultaneously. Nexus defense grid is responding exactly as predicted, Wang reported with satisfaction. Their sensor systems are overloading, trying to track too many quantum signatures at once. The plan they'd spent months preparing was unfolding perfectly. While the Nexus fleet struggled to distinguish real ships from quantum echoes, Earth's resistance forces struck at the control stations. Teams of humans, trained in secret and equipped with quantum-enhanced weapons, emerged from their hiding places among the slave labor forces. Station Alpha shields are down, Rivera called out. Beta and Gamma reporting successful infiltration. The Nexus never suspected their own slaves could operate quantum technology. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The collective had spent a millennium convincing themselves that humans were primitive, incapable of understanding advanced technology. That prejudice had become their weakness. Message from High Command, Park announced suddenly. They're asking for terms of surrender. A murmur ran through the bridge crew. It seemed impossible. The mighty Nexus Collective, which had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, offering to surrender after only 6 months of conflict. But Chen knew better. They're stalling, she said, waiting for reinforcements. Show me their fleet movements. The tactical display shifted, revealing massive Nexus battle groups converging on Earth from multiple sectors. The collective was gathering its full military might for one final battle. Perfect, Chen whispered. Everything had led to this moment. Signal all ships. Execute Protocol Omega. What happened next would be debated by military historians for centuries to come. The Ghost Fleet and their allies didn't just fight the Nexus Armada. They rewrote the rules of space combat itself. Ships' phase shifted through solid matter, weapons fired backwards through time, and quantum shields created bubbles of altered spacetime that swallowed entire Nexus squadrons. Multiple Nexus ships attempting to surrender, Rivera reported, his voice tight with excitement. Their formations are breaking. But Chen's attention was focused on something else. During their months of preparation, they'd discovered the truth about the Phoenix Protocol. It wasn't just a preservation system or an upgrade process. It was an evolution catalyst. All ships, initiate final transformation sequence, she ordered. Throughout the fleet, quantum matrices that had been building power for a millennium activated simultaneously. Energy cascaded between allied vessels, creating a web of pure quantum potential. The Nexus fleet, already in disarray, watched in horror as their opponents began to change. Ship hulls became fluid, organic, adapting in real time to any threat. Weapons evolved mid-battle, each shot learning from the last. The Ghost Fleet wasn't just using advanced technology. They were becoming something new. Quantum Matrix at full power, Wang announced. Ready for final phase. Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had led to. The true purpose of the Phoenix Protocol. Initialize quantum resonance field. Target. Earth. A wave of energy swept out from the fleet, washing over the planet below. Where it passed, Nexus control systems failed, their crystalline technology unable to adapt to the quantum fluctuations. But human technology, both ancient and new, surged to life. On the surface, forgotten systems buried deep beneath cities and oceans activated. Quantum cores that had lain dormant for a millennium pulsed with new energy. The planet itself seemed to awaken, throwing off its chains. It's working, Wang breathed, watching her sensors. The protocol. It's not just affecting our ships, it's affecting everything. Everyone. The quantum resonance field was transforming not just technology, but life itself. Humans who had lived their entire lives under Nexus oppression found themselves awakening to new abilities, new understanding. The evolutionary leap that the Ghost Fleet had undergone was spreading. The Nexus Collective, faced with an enemy that was ascending beyond their comprehension, did the only thing they could. They retreated. Their mighty armada, the force that had terrorized the galaxy for a millennium, fled before the combined power of the transformed alliance. Hours later, Chen stood in the Hyperion's observation deck, watching the sun rise over a liberated Earth. The planet glowed with new life, quantum energy flowing through revitalized systems that had waited 1,000 years to be reborn. "Status report," she said softly, not taking her eyes off the view. "The transformation is stabilizing," Wang replied. "Early estimates suggest it will take about a year for the changes to fully manifest across all human populations. Other species are showing similar potential for quantum evolution. And the Nexus, retreating to their core worlds. Our allies are already moving to liberate outlying systems, without their monopoly on advanced technology, without their myth of superiority." Wang smiled. "They're just another species now, one that will have to learn to coexist rather than dominate." Chen nodded, feeling the weight of history settling around them. The Phoenix Protocol had done more than save humanity. It had changed the course of galactic evolution itself. The age of Nexus dominion was over. The age of cooperation, of shared advancement, was beginning. "Send word to all allied worlds," she ordered. "The war is over. The future begins now." As the message spread across quantum channels, Chen thought about the long journey that had brought them here. 1,000 years of sleep, 6 months of war, and now an eternity of possibilities stretching out before them. The Phoenix had risen, and with it, a new dawn for all species. The end was just the beginning.